Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. I am so excited in New York City. I'm here with a newer friend that I'm so excited about. Kathy and I met at the Entreprenista event in Orlando. We sat next to each other. We were like seated next to each other at a dinner. And I love when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, like, what do you do? And then they tell you and you're like, holy shit, that's so cool. So Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here in New York, of course. I know you're from Toronto, but like, welcome to the Big Apple.
I know. I'm so excited to be here. And it was so great. I had like a random thought to do this. And I was like, I'm just going to message some cool people I know in New York and see if they want to be part of this. And you were top of the list. And well, okay, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and where, like, you know, where you're at in your business and kind of what you've built? Because it's actually incredible.
Okay. I own two companies. Interior architecture and design, and then a construction company as well. So we do some of the build outs for our private clients. I started in construction because that's what my family does. We do redevelopment. And so I kind of migrated into design because I flipped my own houses for a number of years, and my houses would just like sell immediately. And I was like, I think I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of COVID, like I had told you at the event, I decided to just go ahead and do the dang thing. And here we are almost 5 years later, like scaled the business from like a 5K check to a 7 figures in 18 months. Not without its challenges. I will not lie. I feel like I hit a cap at one point and then had to make a hard pivot. And like we're still kind of pivoting right now. And you never realize when you're in those moments until you're in them. It's not like there's no brace for impact. You're like, just here we are.
Yes.
Like make the moves, get things done. But it's been a wild ride, an incredible journey, and I wouldn't have changed a single thing throughout this entire process. And I just love my team. I love working with interesting people. I love going to the events and meeting other entrepreneurs who have applied different things to their businesses from other sectors. I think that's really important. I've met some amazing founders along the way, and just learning from everybody's journeys, everybody's stories has been impactful in my life. So
yeah,
thank you for having me. I'm like excited to talk all the things.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what I love about your story so much too is, one, you work in a super male-dominated industry, right? Like I know one other, which I need to still introduce you, that was on my mind when you walked in, is like a construction owner, like one other female one I know. And then I know on the design side, that's definitely much more of like kind of like a feminine industry for sure. But like it feels pretty rare to be doing both.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most interior designers even tackle the construction side of things. It felt natural for me, obviously, because I came from that and migrated into the design sector, to also have that be a part of my business or an extension of.
Yes.
Because it does really go hand in hand. Like I could design something beautiful, but if I can't bring it to fruition, if I can't build it out, what's the actual point?
Yeah.
And so you have to understand those two components, and it's another entire task and job to bring that to fruition. But what a beautiful story I get to tell. It's like I get to design it and do all this fun stuff, and then also get to be there like on full impact and like show that entire process. So I love it.
So tell us about kind of the journey of like kind of getting started as even a designer, because I think a lot of people do not listen. And I've been in this season too, where like I used to do social media like on the side, like for so many people. And it was just this thing I did for like extra money. It's actually like how I made the deposit for my first house. And people would be like, why don't you do this like full time? And I'm like, oh, no. No. And then now it's like been the last almost 4 years, like it's been our career. It's been amazing. But I like for so long, like didn't listen to the nudges, which sounds like it's the same for you with, you know, you're flipping these houses and, you know, you're kind of making this like, you know, revenue from these homes. But how did you get to the point where you're like, oh, I should be a designer? Like, how did you finally like listen to that calling?
I've always been a creative, like from a very, very young age. And I actually studied fashion design first. So I've been kind of listening to the nudges as time went on. And I just felt like, hey, I don't have a degree in this. What the heck do I know about any of like that stuff? Like I might be great at picking out tile, but I don't know a dang thing about actual architecture.
Yeah.
And then I sort of quickly realized that I know so much more than I realized because of the construction component. I'm like, oh, I know how to read plans. Like, I can figure this stuff out. And then during COVID, I took some online courses, and then I was like, it's now or never. Jump, or that's it. Like, there isn't another piece that's ever going to make you feel ready or like you have all the knowledge. People graduate school that don't know a darn thing. I love my team, and I've hired some really junior people, and they come to me even when I first started, and I had thought at the time that they would know more than I did.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, to the amount of knowledge that I had that I didn't realize.
Yes.
Because of the construction component, because I had worked with my family, because of my own life experience, and because I had done the flips on by myself. And I think understanding that I got to the point where I was like, I'm either going to try this and it fails and we'll move on to something else, or we'll jump off this ledge and we'll fly. And during COVID, I was like, I think July was when I filed the LLC paperwork, July 2020. So we were in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually sign my first client, I think, until the really early beginnings of October. And I took that $5,000 check and I just turned it around and created a 7-figure business. And it, quite frankly, if you ask me how to do it again, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the small nudges along the way, I've always been a creative. I've always been surrounded by entrepreneurs. My entire family is. And, and that comes with ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like, I have been through those moments with my dad, with my uncle, with everyone in my family where we've had and then we've had nothing. And watching those journeys and also learning from their mistakes has been invaluable. There were times when I've had conversations even with my father where I'm like, I wouldn't have done it that way, or I would have done this other thing. And like observing that growing up has been such a joy for me.
Wow.
I wasn't always so grateful for it. I won't lie. He can attest to that. For a long time, I didn't like that chaotic up and down, that swing, that dad was always busy, that kind of thing. And then along the way, I sort of learned to really, truly appreciate and be grateful for his journey because it taught me so much and it made me who I was.
Right.
And so those nudges, they come in really quiet whispers, and they come in small conversations. They come in selling a house in 3 days. They come in a slew of different little whispers. And you learn through those things to sort of trust yourself and be like, okay, maybe I can do this. And you get a little stronger with everything that you accomplish.
Yeah.
And then one day you're like, I'm going to jump today. Yeah.
This is it. Okay, I love that. There's 2 things I want to talk about, so I'm trying to decide which one first because there were so many good things you just put there because I think it's so true. Like, we're never going to feel ready for anything that we do entrepreneurship-wise. Like, even for our events in Canada, I was kind of like, who am I to put on these events? And then getting to know mentors who were just kind of like, oh, I just did it. I was like, oh, I just got to just do it, I guess. And that's just it. So I'm curious for you, like, being in a generationally entrepreneur family, like I'm not, so it's just like an interesting way. Like, I think was that interesting for you, for you to like take those lessons and bring them in right now? Like, and even that feast or famine you're kind of talking about, like, how are you, building your business differently to keep yourself from that situation? Also, I know you're a mom and your family life is just so important to you. And so, yeah, curious how, like, what measures you're taking to change patterns.
Wow, that's a loaded question on this lovely Friday. I think to what you were saying, like the feast and famine, that has been the hardest piece for me to navigate. Yeah, because you can't avoid that when you're an entrepreneur.
I agree.
You will have deep dips. You will have high highs, and you have to understand that that's part of the learning process. Now, coming from an entrepreneurial family, they were like, don't do it. get a job, and so for such a long time, it frustrated my family that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And they discouraged me at every turn. So it wasn't like, hey, we're entrepreneurs, you should be one too. It was more like, hey, we did this. It was insane. Even though, there's successes, like awesome successes, and they've built what they've built, they were like, do not do this. And because I think I must like the pain of it, I was like, no, I want to do this too. It is definitely a calling for all of us that have, made that journey. And I never wanted to be in a situation where I felt like anybody gave me anything or like that they gave me a leg up or any of that kind of thing. And so I never took any kind of money. Even to this day, we've been a bootstrap company since day one. Not always the best thing.
Yeah, no, totally.
It definitely makes a lot of components of scaling harder.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to do something on my own that didn't come from anyone else. And being like a mom, sometimes it's like, all right, I want to show them too that I had that strength also.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I came from things. I didn't come from a lot of other things. I had all this stuff, but I figured it out.
Yes.
And we're all just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I think we forget whatever background you come from, whatever your story is, most of us are really just figuring it out on a daily basis. And I think that's the key component to most people's success. It's that grit of like, all right, I don't know, but I will figure it out. That keeps you going day to day. And I wanted to show my kids that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have all the answers. You never will. You'll never feel ready. You're not going to have the encyclopedia inside your brain, but you just have to keep going forward. And even when it looks like the stuff that came before might have been better because we're in a valley right now, that moving forward will take you back up the mountain. And I think those are the things that I try my absolute hardest to be like, hey, kid, I'm human too. Sometimes you cry on your kitchen floor because I don't know what to do next. And and sometimes you feel like you're on top of the world. And both of those experiences are invaluable to both business growth, personal development, and really showing your kids that you're human at the end of the day. Like, and it's okay to have all of those things in your life. And you're still a worthy, beautiful soul. And you learn to become a better leader through those hardships and through those highs and through all of those things, realizing that we're all having a human experience. We're all likely to make mistakes, and you can be a little bit more compassionate when you're a leader in those moments because of those things. So
100%. Well, I was going to say, I heard this saying one time that was like, being an entrepreneur is like both you have the best moments of your life and the worst moments of your life in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I laugh about this all the time. We'll have a client like maybe pause working with us for a bit or these things happen. I work in an agency and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And then we'll get like another client that's like 4 times the size sign on. And I'm like, oh, great. That was great. We're fine. Right. Yeah. But it's like so hard to go through the ups and downs. And I know construction's one of those things where there is a lot of like overhead on it.
Oh my God. Not just the overhead, and especially for somebody like me who our reputation means the world to us. So like if something goes wrong, we want to cover that. Like we try our absolute best to have it not be the client's fault. Like we don't ever want that. Not that those things don't happen. They do. And you have to really learn how to gracefully power through them. You may be gritting your teeth in the background like, okay, I don't know really what the best solution is, but I have to go with the solution that feels congruent with who I am and what the company represents. Those are tough moments because, if there's a mistake and the client already approved something for $2,000, but realistically the company was like, oh, hey, it was an error on our website and it's actually $8,000. Are you going to eat the cost? Are you going to, tell the client, hey, you have to pick something else? Like, you got to kind of pick your poison. There's not going to be a best case scenario. The best case scenario was for you to get that item at that price and install it at that cost. But you have to take those moments and realize that, you know, they are a learning piece for you, because those will happen on a larger scale later on too.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so what did I learn from that experience now to not have this reoccur later on a much larger scale when it hurts more? I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who are much farther along than myself, who are like, it's okay to take a 6K loss. It's not okay to like have that lesson at 200 grand.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think we've had moments in the business where we have hit a major roadblock and like hit pause on certain components to be like, okay, all this other stuff's working. This thing isn't working. We don't really know why. And like, let's dissect. But we have to hit pause first.
Yeah.
To understand and like fishbone it and like pick it apart and be like, okay, what wasn't working here?
100%.
And fix all of it and then hit start again. On that conveyor belt. And I think a lot of amazing business owners, don't get me wrong, like I love the Hermosis, I love all these amazing people. I don't know if we talk about those hard moments where you're like, I gotta stop all this because it can't keep digging me further into a problem. Yeah. And we don't talk about, those are the hardest moments where you're like, I really want this to work, but it's not working. Yeah. And you're like trying to pull teeth and make it work, but it's like, no, just hit pause, dissect, figure it out, and then continue on again. Yes. So there's such a beautiful growth process to that, even though it's so hard when you're going through it. You're like, I don't want this to happen. I just want it to work.
So what do you do in those situations? Like just thinking about like, because I think a lot of people get into them. I know I'm in them sometimes where you're just like, there's like no way out of this. I don't know what to do next. Like whatever that looks like. What do you like? What are kind of your first steps in doing that?
Radical responsibility. That's always my first thing. It's like, okay, it's not working. Take a deep breath. Yeah. And as the leader, I'm like, it's my fault. I'm at the head of this. I'm supposed to take responsibility. So you can't be like, oh, you did it, or, you know, no. Yeah. We got ourselves into this. Let's take a deep breath. My best self would know how to handle this. So what would she do in this situation? I'm probably not my best self today because I got myself into this mess, but let me think to who that person is and how they would handle this situation. And like, I've done crazy stuff like hypnotherapy where it will take me into a hypnosis where I ask that better version of myself who's got the millions and the whatever she wants, and like, hey, what would you do in this situation? And that's how I figured out to like hit pause one day. I got into a 9-month like spiral on this one project, and I was like, this is making me anxious to even look at my phone. And you never want that, because in what I do, your creativity only pours out when you are lit up in the most beautiful way. And your client won't get the best out of you if you're constantly at that level of anxiety where you're like, I can't even look at my phone. No. And she was like, cut it off at the head. Hit pause. Let it go. It's okay. Like, maybe you have to sacrifice not completing something, which is the epitome of my existence. Like, I hate that. I hate not finishing something that I've started. And so maybe having to sort of sever that tie in order to be able to dissect even what the heck is going on, to be able to remediate that situation. But I didn't have that clarity just like in the whirlwind of it. Yep. I had to take myself out, and thank you to my very good friend, Dr. Kathy, for the hypnosis, because it showed me a different way that maybe I wasn't necessarily cognizant of in that moment. And it was a gift. And then I realized that I could do that anytime I needed. Because you do have the answers. They're just not at the forefront of your mind. They're in a deeper place.
Yeah.
A knowing, but having to just quiet down for a moment. But understanding too that if you've gotten yourself so worked up that your phone, you can't even look at it.
Yes.
And then you've gotten to a place where none of the other stuff's going to work too, because you're like, I can't even look at my phone.
Yeah.
So those pivotal things are hard to navigate until you really hit pause on all levels. Because if I don't have enough know-how to get quiet to understand what I need to do, it's not just brainstorming. It's not asking other people. Other people don't always have the answer because they're not going to handle that situation the way you need to.
Yes. Which is why I think when, you're seeking advice and seeking mentorship, it's so important to figure out who you're asking and like what you're asking them, right? Like, even I just had my friend Meg on the podcast and we were chatting about how like not actually everyone wants to see you be successful.
No.
That's juicy. Yeah. But like not everyone wants to see you be successful, and not everybody. I like live in the energy that everyone wants good for me, but like I must to survive, like but it's like that's not the truth. Like I think even sometimes the things that people do that we don't think is good for us, that's their version of good for us. Like when people are worried about us, or I know when I was becoming an entrepreneur, like so many of my friends and family, like I come from an immigrant family.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, you die in that job. Like you lay down and in your casket, you wear a badge from that workplace. And they're like, you have a pension, you have all these things going for you. Like, this is great. And my mom could not even understand like why I would want to even like take a pay cut, do this the way I wanted to do it. Like, and it's added so much value to my life, but that took a while to kind of get there. And I think that's why it's really important when we're seeking counsel from people. Like, I think that inner work is so important, and that leadership development of ourselves to be able to like make choices. And that's why like mentorship is important, but then also really just investing in ourselves so we can be those leaders we need sometimes for us.
100%.
Yeah.
100% for yourself. And like you were saying, like seeking counsel from other people, your family's probably not going to be it for most.
Yes.
And even in my situation, like they are entrepreneurs, but it still wasn't the place that I needed to seek counsel. And I mean, I even had a conversation with my mother yesterday where I was like, I know that you're worried and I know that you want the best for me. And I know like you feel like, XYZ is too soon. I am 35 years old, ma'am. It's like, I love you dearly and I know you want the best for me, but what's best for me is for me to make those decisions.
Yes, totally.
For myself.
Yeah.
Because you were brought up in a time where maybe that wasn't something that you did, or that's not how you would or should do something. But for me, I grew up in a different time and I've had a totally different life experience. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because you played a huge role in me being able to have this other experience. So let me live it. So seeking counsel and mentorship is so important in who those people are. And honestly, I've had mentors along the way, but like when I say mentors, I'm like people that I find that align with the things that I would also agree with.
Yep.
But not necessarily somebody who held my hand through anything.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us feel that way where we're like, yeah, maybe Layla and I, agree that sometimes you have to power through. And she has this like funny saying where
when you say Layla, are you saying Hermosa?
100%. Yeah.
Like you guys are buddies.
Yeah, we're buddies. She doesn't know it yet, but we're friends.
Wait, did you know that when we were at Entreprenista, they stayed at the same hotel we were at?
Stop it.
Yes, because Carlin. We have a mutual friend, Carlin Bushman. So Lori and I were chatting, and she was like, did you see Alex and Layla in the lobby? And Carlin's like, who? And we're like, what do you mean who? And she did not know who Alex was.
Stop it.
Yes. I was like, are you on the internet? Have you been online? Have you, the no strip? No. And she did not. Oh my God. Isn't that nuts? I know. I'm so sorry. Now I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity.
Yes. Why did no one tell me this?
Okay, next time. Anyway, sorry. Layla was saying. Your girl Layla.
My girl Layla. She has this saying where it's like, it's a mindset, really, you know, about how sometimes you have to just power through. It's like your feelings don't matter, just get stuff done. And I love that. And it resonates with me. And I think it resonates with a lot of us, because I may not feel like going to the gym today. I may not feel like going to work. I may not feel like being a mom. I still have to do all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's, for most of us, it's overwhelming, especially when we're going through life shifts, when we're going through tough times personally, you know, to still maintain all that. And it's like that funny meme where it's like, are you the type of person who's like trying to run a business, drink enough water, connect with your friends, like go on podcasts,
Eat 100 grams of protein.
100%. And it's like, all right, can we pick like 3 of those things to accomplish on a daily basis and stop trying to make everyone feel guilty? But like, when you are trying to scale to like what they've built, sometimes having the know-how to just power through, even when you don't feel like it, that's really important. Yeah. And it's like, those are the people that most of us look at and like, okay, like that resonates with me. But I don't know that I have found someone like in my circle of people that necessarily makes me feel that way. And there's different people in my direct vicinity that empower me in other ways. You know, I have an incredible friend who is so deep within her faith that it makes me like appreciate someone who can go that deep in their faith and just have that inner knowing of like, I will always be okay. And she's also an entrepreneur. And so I look to people not just close to me, but who are maybe somewhere where I want to be. And those types of mentorships are important for all of us, because being an entrepreneur is pretty lonely. Yep. Can be. It can be. Yeah. It can be, because like, no, you're not really calling people when you are crying on your kitchen floor. You just kind of grin and bear it, and you're like, I had that moment, and then now we're moving on. Yeah. So. And I think it's like one of the things you said that I think I just want to touch on is also about like getting sources from different places, right? And inspiration from different places. So it's like, we actually talked about this when we were sitting next to each other in Florida about how I was like, I say this all the time, how I'm like, not woo. I'm like, I'm just like not into the woo. And I actually was just on a podcast the other day. I did a live podcast recording at one of our clients' lunch, and she asked me to be at the party and interview me. And I was like, oh, I'm so woo adjacent. Like, it's like all these woo people, like I'm always seated next to them everywhere. I'm like, conjure up someone else. Like, how'd you get me this time? Like, we're always like laughing. But we need those like things, whether that be hypnotherapy, whether that be breath work, whether that be a friend, whether that be, you know, a family member you can go on a walk with that like you don't need to talk about business. Like, you need to be able to draw inspirations from other places rather than being so deep in. And I think with Alex and Layla, something that I don't always agree with, but I can appreciate, is that they have made tremendous sacrifices in other areas of their life to get to where they are today. 100%. And so, you know, like they don't cook. Right. Like ever, I think I like that's the vibe I've gotten from them, is that they never cooked. She makes cookies.
Does she? Well, the dessert, they love dessert.
Never skip dessert. Okay, I'm fully on board for this. I never skip dessert. Thank you very much for making it a thing.
I love it. I love how active they are and never skip dessert. I think it's a nice combo, but balance. But it's like they've made like, you know, sacrifices. They get a lot of hate. They get a lot of discouragement. They get a lot of feedback to get to where they are. So it's like we can't look to these people who have built these types of businesses and be like, oh, wow, like it'd be so nice to have like as much money as Layla or be doing this like Alex or whatever, without knowing that like there's a lot of hard shit that came with that too. And they've had to have blinders on to be able to build what they've been building.
1,000%. And it's like the blinders. I remember Alex posted this thing. I feel like this is becoming a podcast about Alex and Layla, but I like really heart you guys. So
I'm just telling you that I don't think Alex or Layla is ever going to listen to this.
They may.
We should send it to them.
Can we? I may. I'm determined to become friends with her. So he posted this moment, this very vulnerable moment when he had lost everything, when he made that bad decision. And he talks about it. And they were back in his parents' basement. And he told Layla, he's like, hey, I give you permission to leave. And first of all, what man has that much courage? So I give him so much exemplary like props for having the amount of courage that it takes to be like, I really love you, but it's unfair for me to keep you here with me right now.
Thanks so much for listening to Community with me, Kristina Bartold, and I'm just so excited to continue the conversations. If you're looking to grow your community and learn more about social, join us at thesocialbusinessclub.ca and use the code podcast to get your first month for $1. Share this episode with your friends and on social, or leave a review. It means the world.